Fab Five Freddy told me everybody's fly. DJ spinning.
Hello? Hello?
You know who this is.
Owen likes comics?
Yeah, no, I'm Mauricio Table, voted by GQ as the sexiest table-themed YouTuber of the first quarter of 2019.
Oh, Browntable, hi.
Mr. Table to you, you second-rate British high-top films knockoff.
Well, that kind of hurts, Mr. Table.
Oh, I apologize, you're so weak because I haven't even started hurting you yet. You Doctor Who snorting tea drinking piece of backwashed filth. The word on the street is you're working on a Fantastic Four video of your own?
Yes, Mr. Table, that is correct, sir. But you see, I noticed that your video had been released on the Tim Story Fantastic Four, so I decided to expand my video into more of a comprehensive ranking, if you will, of all the Fantastic Four films. So you see that...
The only thing you'll be changing is your fucking diaper, because if you release that video, I'm gonna be forced to rain down the motherload of reckonings onto you. The absolute beatdown of beatdowns. It's not looking good, bruv. You're gonna get pasteurized, milkman. I'm gonna take an absolute full fat shit all over your dairy produce. I'm gonna say mean things about you in a tweet.
Oh no, please don't do that, Mr. Table. I'm sure we can work something out.
Release that video and you're dead meat. Now why don't you go and literally fuck your own face?
Fab Five Freddy told me everybody.
Make sure to subscribe to Browntable and check out Interstellar Ranger Commends. It's an animated series I'm working on. Now, back to the video.
So originally this was going to be a double whammy on the 2005 Fantastic Four feature and its sequel Rise of the Silver Surfer, but then Browntable came out with his glorious video on the former, and I felt like this needed a bit more teeth to justify not scrapping the whole damn thing. So thanks to that very talented man, I'm now being forced to sit through Fan 4 Stick again, and well, I hope you're happy, Mr. Table. Has there ever been a truly great Fantastic Four movie? No, not at all. But I do think sometimes a 3-star experience still merits some fun to be had. It would be hyperbolic to suggest that any Fantastic Four movie is a misunderstood masterpiece or that they are underrated and deserve more praise, but at the same time, acting like, in particular the 2000s FF, have no redeeming qualities is an equally ridiculous notion. So sit back as I rank every Fantastic Four movie and the appearance in Multiverse of Madness.
Here we talk!
Before I rank the Fantastic Four movies, I want to quickly talk about today's sponsor, Marvel Collect by Topps. Topps do a lot of different trading card games, but obviously I'm far more interested in the Marvel iteration because I'm a huge dork, so I figured you might get a kick out of this too. Marvel Collect gets you to complete missions to earn new character cards, which you can then trade. You can also unlock unique content such as avatars and more. You can trade with other Marvel collectors across the world, but don't worry if their collection is bigger than yours. It's about how you use it, or so I'm told. You can make custom collections themed around any Marvel teams, heroes or villains. Marvel Collect allows you to trade cards from not only the 616 comic book world, but also the Marvel Cinematic Universe, including the most recent Disney Plus shows. The prize wheel allows you to get more goodies like coins and cards. If you love Marvel and you like trading, this is the app for you. Go to my link in the description to download Marvel Collects by Topps. And if you want to follow me, my username is of course Full Fat Videos. So at number 5 we have Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, a film that if it were any other list would go well above all of the other movies cited here, but unfortunately I'm just talking about Fantastic Four, and in terms of its Fantastic Fourness, it fucking sucks.
I'm the smartest man alive. Reed Richards of the Fantastic Four.
Later that same evening.
John Krasinski was a fan favourite casting choice for years, and even then, I have to say, even before it was cool to hate on the John Krasinski Mr. Fantastic, I was already a hater, because I did not get that at all. He looks vaguely like Mr. Fantastic, but he's a bit doughier. I have to say, I'm not a huge John Krasinski fan. I think his character, what's his name, Jeff, or whatever, in The Office. I don't watch the American Office, the British Office is the one.
Get out.
Jeff, whatever his name is fucking irritating, and I'm not really into his Jack Ryan. And I like A Quiet Place, but I don't think he's the best thing in it, and I find his presence in the second one a bit masturbatory. So I can't say I love John Krasinski, and I definitely do not love him as Mr. Fantastic. I think this is one of the most boring performances ever put to the MCU. He is sleepwalking through every line. He seems like he barely even cares.
From our experience, the greatest danger to the multiverse, it turns out, is Doctor Strange.
Which makes me think that he's definitely a one-off cameo role, and that he's not invested in the character, and that he's not going to be the main Mr. Fantastic. I'm sure I'm going to eat my words next month when they reveal the full cast, and it indeed has John Krasinski. I mean, I feel like his casting, his fan casting, has more come out of the fact that Emily Blunt would be a perfect Invisible Woman, and they happen to be married, so people are like, oh, well, he vaguely looks like Mr. Fantastic. Yeah, sure, whatever. Really dreadful, dull performance. And yeah, aside from satisfying some fanboy dreams, I don't see what anyone gets out of this. And his costume, as Mr. Browntable would say, is incredibly over-designed. And this is my main gripe, he doesn't do any stretching. He does like one stretch. That's it. Bullshit. Where's my stretchy powers? Stretchy powers are sweet.
Thanks, Candy. That means a lot to me.
And then at number 4, we have Fan 4 Stick.
It's fantastic.
Guys, I got it. Ready?
The 2015 Josh Trank vehicle starring Miles Teller and Michael B. Jordan. It's truly awful. One of the worst comic book movies of all time. I appreciate they wanted to go for like a Cronenberg-esque horror angle with this movie, but I don't think that's right for a Fantastic Four adventure. I know like one of the characters gets encased in rock and cannot transform back, another one of them catches on fire at any given moment, but these characters are goofy and spacefaring and fun most of all, and they're a family, and I don't think the dynamics in this one worked, and it definitely didn't work with that tone of trying to bring it down and make it more serious and kind of like, you know, for lack of a better word, like Nolanize it. This one was weird because coming off the back of Chronicle, Josh Trank, X-Men Days of Future Past with Simon Kinberg, they were on a good streak, man, and there's no reason why this Fantastic Four movie had to be as bad as it is. But it's clearly butchered in the editing room. The first hour feels like a slow build-up to them getting their powers, and then the second half just races through everything else. There's like a montage where they're seen training with their powers, and it's like a 6-month time jump, I believe, and they go from not being able to control their powers at all to kind of being able to control their powers to a moderate degree, and all of that fun stuff is skipped over. Really baffling decisions. There's a fantastic car that was seen in set photos and videos that is never in the finished movie, so it's clear that there is a huge chunk of this that we never got to see. But unlike the Snyder Cut, I do not think we ever need to see it. It is a shame that Josh Trank's vision was muddled by the studios, but at the same time I think it's a flawed vision from the start. I don't think this is what Fantastic Four should be. We've got to remember as well that yes, it's a Fantastic Four reboot, and there were Fantastic films before, and I understand that you have to mix it up and do something different when you're rebooting something, sort of give it a fresh spin, but we've never really had a truly top-tier adaptation of Fantastic Four on film that is completely faithful, so I don't see why we couldn't have gone fun and campy in 2015. I don't think we needed to go super serious and give them all these like black X-Men outfits and call the thing Fan 4 Stick. So stupid. What is up with that logo? Doctor Doom is insanely powerful and can pop everyone's heads, and that's probably one of the coolest scenes in the movie, and then he never does it to any of the Fantastic Four for reasons unclear. I think all the casting's pretty good, like Michael B. Jordan makes a good Human Torch, Miles Teller makes a good Mr. Fantastic, but they aren't given anything to do, and they just kind of feel like they're playing themselves rather than playing iterations of these iconic characters. The best thing this movie ever did was set up that tremendous joke in Blind Spotting.
It's like Michael B. Jordan on fire and Chris Evans on fire.
The action's also dreadful. There's not really any saving graces in this one. I can't say it's even watchable. Like, you know, it doesn't even have that so bad it's good quality, which I think the 2000s Fantastic Four movies have at their very worst. This one is just painful to sit through, and I will never want to watch it ever again. But I would still say that Miles Teller Mr. Fantastic is a better Mr. Fantastic than John Krasinski, because Miles Teller is a fine actor with far more range, and he puts a little bit more of his Miles Zussi into this Mr. Fantastic role. His Fantastussi, it definitely goes into this one more than John Krasinski's Krasinkussi. Yeah. You get the point.
From the pages of the world's greatest comic book adventure, 4 heroes on a daring mission in space, but something went wrong.
And at number 3, we have the unreleased 1994 Fantastic Four movie by Roger Corman. I would put this one slightly above the Fantastic movie because even though it's also dreadful, it's Roger Corman. And it's also got comic accurate suits, Doom looks pretty good for the time, and it embraces the comic book and the weird and the aesthetic of the comics. So for that small reason, even though it is a film that was never released, never intended to be released, and it's basically a glorified tax write-off, it is the original Batgirl, I would still rank it above the stinker that is Fantastic and the even bigger, clunkier stinker that is John Krasinski, Mr. Fantastic.
Yes.
And then we get to the real meat of this video, the 2000s Fantastic Four movies, starring Ewan Grufford, Jessica Alba, Chris Evans and Michael Chiklis, supported by Julian McMahon as Dr. Doom.
This is gonna be fun.
Now, I would say that the first film is the inferior entry, so I'm going to place that at number 2. The 2005 Fantastic Four is a fun movie, and it nowhere near reaches the heights of some other far better superhero movies that were released that decade. It doesn't quite have the depth and emotionality that the top tier entries in that decade had, but I still think it's fun, and the fact that it is clearly trying to ape the magic that the Sam Raimi films conjured in Spider-Man means that, you know, it's a poor man's Raimi Spider-Man is still better than the Fantastic Four logo being chopped up into Fan 4 and stick and them having black costumes. This one has fun with itself.
I swear to you, Ben, they've done everything humanly possible.
Give me that mirror.
I don't know if that's a good idea.
There's some genuinely funny lines, and I think it gets the character dynamics mostly right.
Unfortunately, the doctors just couldn't do anything to fix your face.
You've got the sort of sibling rivalry between The Thing and Chris Evans, which plays out beautifully.
Johnny!
You've got the relationship between Reed and Sue. You've got the brother-sister dynamic between Sue and Johnny.
Don't even think about it.
Never do.
What are you doing?
This is a top-tier Flame On, by the way.
Flame on!
I think all of these actors actually embody the roles of the Fantastic Four pretty well, aside from Jessica Alba, but I don't think that's really her fault. She is the one that has clearly the least to do. Who can forget the infamous contrived scene where Sue strips to her underwear to sneak past the police, only for the rest of the team to make it through anyway, rendering the entire point of the scene arbitrary, save for the fact that the film is trying to get the dads taking their kids horny for invisible boobs.
I'm gonna need therapy.
And more often than not, the thing they get most wrong about her character from the comics is that she is just like this doting lover for Reed.
I was ready for the next step. You weren't. Ergo, I walked.
I think it was a little bit more complicated than that.
I just wanted to share an apartment.
She's caught in a love triangle between Doom and Richards, and she is largely objectified unlike the other superheroes. This is the least faithful adaptation of the 2005 FF, and it's a shame because I think even someone like Doom mimics the comic book personality somewhat, even though they completely screw up his backstory and abilities. Sue's characterization gets worse in the sequel, but we'll get to that.
Are you kidding?
No.
These movies are watchable and they don't outstay their welcome. I think one of the reasons, above all else, why these movies are not that bad is because they're both roughly around 90 minutes.
Give me that short ass movie, a 90-minute movie.
I believe the first one clocks in at about 1 hour 40 and the second one is a legitimate 90. And that goes a long way in appeasing me because there is nothing worse than a terrible movie that is long as well. These movies, they're not great movies. They're fun, they've got some like fun scenes, the dynamics between the characters can make you chuckle and can be even endearing at their very best. The action whilst not mind-blowing or better than anything else that came out at the time in the superhero genre, has some fun moments.
Open. It's clobbering time.
Cool. How much better does it look with some practical destruction, a practical thing suit, and some actual wire work flinging Doctor Doom into the wall? Practical is always far superior. The only time you shouldn't use practical is when you can only realise the scene through digital effects, a la the Human Torch, and his flying scenes are all fantastic. How have we gotten so far away from this? Why can't we have practical wire work and practical destruction? It looks so much better. And by the time you really start to sit there and think about all these different things that don't quite add up, the movie's over, so it doesn't matter. A post-credit scene in a Marvel movie? That will never catch on. Because it's 90 minutes, there's a nice economy of story. Reed and Sue already had a prior relationship, they know each other. Ben and Reed are already best friends, and that's firmly established.
When have I ever asked you to do something you absolutely said you could not do?
5 times.
Reed already has a rivalry with Doom, and that allows us to jump straight into the characters and jump straight in within like the first 10-15 minutes. We're on the space station, they're getting hit by the cosmic rays, they're getting their powers. Unlike Fan 4 Stick, it actually spends the majority of its runtime with the characters getting to learn their abilities, getting to work out how their dynamic will work as a group in the Baxter building, and some of that can be a lot of fun. I think the main problem with it as a movie structurally is that there's not really much driving it for that reason. It feels at times more like a hangout movie with the Fantastic Four, which, to be fair, doesn't sound too bad, but when you have Doctor Doom sort of conniving away in the background in the first act, only for him to kind of just sort of like disappear while they work out their differences in the second act. He then comes back in the third act with much less of a bang and more of a whimper. He just kind of freezes Reed and divides to conquer, and he tricks Ben into changing back to human form, which is a bit of a stretch, and it really feels like he's just there as an excuse for them to clobber someone. You can't do this to me. You know how much I sacrificed! His motivations are directly ripped off from Willem Dafoe's Norman Osborn in the first Spider-Man to a T, which has always been incredibly weird, and I think Mauricio actually mentioned it in his Fantastic Four video, and yeah, it's like right down to the minutiae of him being screwed over by a board of directors and then getting that later scene where he gets to have his revenge with his newfound abilities. Out am I! Director Tim Story was reportedly hired for his background in comedy, but he said that he wanted it to have more heart to it and mix the serious with the goofy, a la the Raimi Spider-Man films. I think you can definitely tell that those films were the blueprint for these movies, even though they don't quite reach those highs, and I think that's a smart way to take the material on the part of Story. I mean, Trank and everyone else seems to go more grounded and more serious with these characters, when I think you should do the opposite. You should just make light of the fact that one of them is Stretch Armstrong and one of them is constantly on fire and says flame on to turn on his powers, and the other bloke is made out of rocks and he constantly says it's Morbin time. And I think because of that Raimi influence, you end up getting some kind of Raimi-like moments of warmth and heart that genuinely hit home, particularly when the Thing goes to grab his wedding ring, and because of his huge Thing-like fingers, he can't actually pick up the ring, and he's doing that, you know, in front of a crowd of people, rather humiliated after his wife has just left him for his newfound appearance. That's a nice moment. There's some actually like decent exchanges between Johnny and Ben towards the end of the movie, where they sort of find respect for each other, and I think work quite well. And you know, you do ultimately care about Ben and his plight. Michael Chiklis's Thing costume still looks great today. Sure, he's a little on the small side compared to his comic book counterpart, but the fact that this fully practical suit meant to depict a superpowered rock creature looks as good as it does is simply amazing. The design team did a really good job here. It seldom looks rubbery, and the design never loses Chiklis amongst the effects. A CGI equivalent would look distracting, towering over the other actors. Instead, he's just as fully realised as the rest of the FF. Sinestro and The Thing are two characters in maligned comic book movies that could have looked so awful, and instead they look great. They both fully exceeded expectations.
Oh, you're hot.
Why, thank you, so are you.
Chris Evans as Johnny Storm is perfect casting. Years and years on, we all know him as Captain America, and he is so perfect in that role as the unassuming 90-pound nerd trapped in a bodybuilder's physique that we may forget that he's perfect at doing glib, sarcastic, narcissistic characters a la The Grey Man and Knives Out. That all began with Not Another Teen Movie, but more importantly, Johnny Storm in the Fantastic Four movies. He's hilarious, and he's easily the best thing in both movies, I would say, discounting maybe the Doug Jones, Lawrence Fishburne sandwich, but we'll get to that.
Silver Surfer.
I think it's funny that even though these movies aren't strictly faithful adaptations to the comics, they get a lot more right than people give them credit for.
Time for your lesson. Chem 101. What happens when you rapidly cool hot meth? Bang!
Also, the John Ottman score is fantastic, very hummable. You can tell that it shares some of the DNA with the X-Men movies. You can tell it's the same guy composing both from that era, and I think that really works for the Fantastic Four. Dun 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 dun. Yeah, it's nice. More hummable and memorable than, unfortunately, a lot of superhero themes that are released today and in the last decade. Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer is better than its predecessor in just about every way. Gone is a meandering second act, Gone is a long-winded origin, in its place is a far more engrossing and fully realised threat, bolstered by better comedy and character interactions.
Oh, that is cool.
That's not to say Silver Surfer is a misunderstood masterpiece or anything like that, but I feel like this sequel sticks the landing to give us a fun, if not dizzyingly good FF movie. It is so far the best Fantastic Four movie we've ever gotten. And the best depiction of these characters.
Oh, dude, you gotta let me fly this thing.
Forget about it. I'm the best pilot here. I should fly.
Are you serious? Guys. We're lucky if this thing can carry you.
I can fly circles around you blind.
Shut up!
I'm driving.
The Four are already established, and the threat is much higher. There's a more ominous end-of-the-world feeling, and the Surfer is infinitely more powerful than them as a team. Every time he pops up, there's a real weight to him as an antagonist. As with The Thing, the Silver Surfer is just pitch perfect too. Seriously, not just for a 2000s comic book movie, but the entire genre in general, they really nailed this character. He looks exactly like how you'd imagine him leaping off the page, and the 1-2 punch of Doug Jones for the body and Lawrence Fishburne for the voice of the Surfer is an absolute slam dunk.
All that you know is at an end.
As I said, he feels powerful and way stronger than the rest of the team. Being an outer space threat really makes him seem unstoppable, and watching him phase rockets out of existence and outrun the Human Torch is a joy. That chase between the two is really well composed, and there's a great sense of speed between them. Plus, the Surfer's intangibility leads to some really nice moments, like when he planks through his balls.
Show off.
Just freaking weird and cool, man. I'm here for that. I know a lot of people thought it was lame Doctor Doom returned, but I actually don't mind it. I like how the Four are instantly rocked by his return, and it makes him feel like their number one nemesis. Plus, the Surfer is the main antagonist until Doom plays out his eventual betrayal and Galactus shows up. Yeah, we know Doom is going to betray everyone, but for me that's part of the fun.
What's the matter? Afraid of ghosts?
Not so tough now, are ya?
He's so mustache twirling, and once again Vince McMahon is having fun with it. It's not the Doom from the comics, but I do enjoy seeing him amped up on surfer juice, and to be fair, the Doom costume in this film is pretty cool. Galactus sucks, granted, but I think it would have been ridiculous to expect a character as goofy as he is to pop up lifted from the comics. It's already weird enough to do space shit in your superhero movie. Even Superman on film at that point had been largely earthbound. We're lucky that we have the Infinity Stones and the Guardians of the Galaxy and all of that cosmic goodness today, but I can totally see why 2007 Fox opted to make Galactus more of an ominous monster than a giant man wearing a purple dildo. The problem is it doesn't go far enough.
Oh my god.
He could have been way creepier and honestly more Lovecraftian. I don't think he necessarily needed to talk, but there's way more mileage you could get out of an all-consuming space monster that eats planets. It's funny now that the guy from Brooklyn Nine-Nine is playing his character from Brooklyn Nine-Nine here, just being a total dickbag to Reed Richards as much as possible.
What the hell is wrong with you people?
Andre Braga is a lot of fun in this movie. Did you know that the studio originally wanted Nick Fury for the general character, but Marvel vetoed it because they wanted him to pop up in Iron Man just a year later?
No, you're right. I did. I stayed in and studied like a good little nerd. And the big jock who played quarterback in high school, well, he's standing right in front of me asking me for my help. And I say he's not going to get a damn thing.
This scene is lifted from an exchange between Fury and Reed in the comics, and it's funny to think about how a small change like having Nick Fury here, or Shakman cameoing in the first Spider-Man movie, would have completely altered the comic book landscape and the very makeup of the MCU as we know it.
I'm so hot for you right now.
Me too!
Unfortunately, the Invisible Woman doesn't fare much better in this movie than the first installment. Sue knows for a fact that these weather anomalies are part of something world-threatening, but the wedding is so important, and Reed just needs to understand that. Because she's a woman, and women are obsessed with marriage and babies, obviously, and starting a family, even if they're at the heart of the world's strongest superhero team, and the world is literally about to end, and she is one of only 4 people who are equipped to stop it.
Do you remember that time in school?
A pulse.
A tachyon pulse.
It's an incredibly manufactured conflict for her and Reed, and it makes absolutely zero sense. She's a superhero.
How could we possibly raise a family like this?
By the end of the movie, she's rushing through their actual marriage because they have to go do superhero shit, and that's treated like the big arc payoff.
What is it?
Venice is sinking into the Adriatic.
That's a biggie.
Can we just skip to the end?
The film wants you to congratulate this, but it just completely bulldozes any chance for her to be an interesting character in her own right. At least she gets to be the one to interact with the Silver Surfer and show him a better path, but at the same time, that interaction all rests on the fact that Jessica Alba is a beautiful woman. The Surfer is all intent on ploughing through Earth, and then he gets a bit of a thing for a woman who reminds him of his wife, and then it's suddenly time to think with his silver dingaling. Starting to think the rise of the Silver Surfer was in fact a multi-layered title. They make Sue more like Reed's fiancée first, a superhero second, and even this one, she just gets the bleeding nose again, like, damn, everyone else uses their powers willy-nilly, but Sue just can't ever seem to hack it, can she? Good thing there's some strapping men here to take care of the situation. This film has hands down the best Stan Lee cameo ever.
Name?
Stan Lee.
Yeah, nice try, buddy.
No,
Nice
no,
try.
really,
Nice
I'm
try.
Stan
Yeah.
Lee.
And the fantastic car is great. I honestly think this is such an awesome design and it fits right into the world, and if they unveiled this tomorrow for the upcoming MCU Fantastic Four movie, I don't think anyone would bat an eyelid.
We're gonna have to split up!
What?
This ought to be fun.
Hemi?
Of course.
The action in this one is definitely better too. As I said, there's the Human Torch Silver Surfer chase at the start, but the London Eye sequence is also fun, as is watching Silver Surfer bat off a bunch of missiles, and finally the ending where we get the Fantastic Car breaking into pieces, being chased by a Silver Surfer amped up Doctor Doom, is quite a lot of fun, even if, as with the first film, these action sequences are over pretty quickly. And then of course we have the payoff to all the fun gags with the power switching.
Oh my god!
When we get an ode to Super Skrull with Chris Evans, Johnny Storm taking on everyone's powers to fight Doom, which I do think is a fun novelty, even if it does kind of strip away the team dynamic for the finale of this movie.
It's clobbering time.
There's enough fun dynamics between them for the rest of the movie that I don't really mind. The sequel embraced more of its comic book roots, and I think that only would have kept going with a third movie and so on. Just like how Iron Man started out fairly grounded and ended up fighting Thanos on an alien world over some magical stones. But Alba, understandably, reportedly didn't want to do any more, and Marvel were courting Evans for the MCU. There was talk of them introducing Black Panther in the third installment, along with a trip to Wakanda, after Fox were reportedly happy with how the second film introduced Surfer as a guest superhero, and they wanted to replicate that. Imagine how differently things would have turned out if that had happened. Chris Evans suggested Puppet Master for a darker third instalment. I remember fans seemed to like the idea of that at the time, but honestly, I would have just liked to see the franchise keep going into space. These guys could have faced the Skrulls in the third instalment, and I think that would have upped the ante as they could have faced some more cannon fodder to up the action. Super Skrull would have been so cool, and you could have had all the shape-shifting paranoia, and the FF could have gone to proper alien worlds. But alas, the Fantastic Four of this era were never to be seen again, and instead of getting Ewan Grufford in Marvel's Multiverse of Madness, we unfortunately got John Krasinski. I honestly do not understand why you'd bring back the original X-Men Xavier, but not the original Fantastic Four Reed Richards. Aren't you trying to conjure the same feeling there? I digress. Here's hoping that the recently announced Matt Shakman of WandaVision fame can bring about a great Fantastic Four movie. I think he's got the chops. The only thing that worries me is the fact that we're getting a Fantastic Four movie to introduce them, and then we're immediately going into the Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars, which will no doubt involve Doctor Doom. It feels like we're introducing them and then chucking them straight in at the deep end, and I wonder how that's going to work. I feel like the Fantastic Four should have at least 2 adventures on their own steam before doing a massive team up, but here's hoping it all gets pulled off without a hitch and we finally get a truly great Fantastic Four movie, one that doesn't feature boring acting, one that doesn't feature black outfits and a grounded tone, one that embraces all the fun and goofiness of the original comic pages and nails the family dynamic and the action once and for all. A big thank you to my full fat tier patron, Dr. Chike. If you'd like to donate money to my Patreon, you can find me at patreon.com/fullfatvideos. If you'd like to find me on Instagram, you can find me at full_fat_videos. And if you'd like to find me on Twitter, you can find me at fullfatvideos.